And if Denmark wants to get to a conclusion, but nobody knows if they even have any right, title, or interest. The people are going to probably vote for independence or to come into the United States.
Mr. Trump, I ask you as a supporter and a voter, how in the hell is having Canada and Greenland and renaming the Gulf of America going to save me money on my grocery bill and my taxes?
I know you're thinking, who would have thought the man who's bankrupted more businesses than he's had affairs, who was on record lying more than 30,000 times during his first crack at fascism, would have sold himself to supporters as a pioneer for cheap groceries and lower inflation, only to then offer the ever so helpful rebranding of the Gulf of Mexico instead?
We respect the boundaries of other countries. We expect other countries to respect our boundaries. Vladimir Putin with Russia did not do that and invaded Ukraine.
When the president said there's an artificial line separating us and Canada, it sounds a lot like what Putin talked about with Ukraine. Can you imagine if the Chinese said, Lower Manhattan is Chinatown, so we'll just annex that because there are a lot of Chinese there and they speak our language there, or in Little Italy. We're going to take Italians, we're going to take Little Italy because, there are a lot of Italian. It's silly.
As we inch ever closer to Inauguration Day, we get more insight into what the next 4 years will look like. And if the confirmation hearings of Pete Hegseth and Pam Bondi are anything to go by, we're in for a long 4 years.
Not qualified to that, you could do acquisition and cross-servicing agreements, which essentially are security agreements. You can't even mention that. You've done none of those. You talked about the Indo-Pacific a little bit, and I'm glad that you mentioned it. Can you name the importance of at least one of the nations in the ASEAN, and what type of agreement we have with at least one of those nations? And how many nations are in ASEAN, by the way?
I couldn't tell you the exact amount of nations in that, but I know we have allies in South Korea and Japan and in AUKUS with Australia, and trying to work on submarines with them.
Mr. Hegseth, none of those countries are in ASEAN. None of those 3 countries that you've mentioned are in ASEAN. I suggest you do a little homework before you prepare for these types of negotiations. Listen.
But Trump has also used his time in the lead up to next week's inauguration to inform voters of what they essentially purchased. Foreign policy like the annexing of Greenland, the Panama Canal, and bullying Canada into becoming the 51st state.
Please.
President, thank you. Wanted to touch on the world on fire that you mentioned, but let's start, if we could, with your references to Greenland and the Panama Canal. So forth. Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
And can you tell us a little bit about what your plan is? Are you going to negotiate a new treaty? Are you going to ask the Canadians to hold a vote? What is the strategy?
Yeah, I can't assure you. You're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two.
Right, but Sir Lopez, you said you were considering military force to acquire Panama and Greenland. Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force. Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like. And it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. But here's the problem with Canada. So many friends up there. I love the Canadian people. They're great. But we're spending hundreds of billions a year to protect it.
But this was outlined to voters beforehand, right? Oh, that's right. He was being sold to voters as the peacetime president, hell-bent on lowering the price of gas. It's already low. Inflation, it's low. And egg prices, again, low. So with this, one begins to ask, does MAGA have buyer's remorse? Well, according to several videos doing the rounds across social media, it appears so.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to show you a video of someone that's literally in their fuck around and find out portion of voting for Donald Trump. just watch.
Mr. Trump, I ask you as a supporter and a voter, how in the hell is having Canada and Greenland and renaming the Gulf of America going to save me money on my grocery bill and my taxes?
Newsflash, it's not going to. It's not going to help you. You know, you were supposed to study before you took the test, and unfortunately, you are 100% in the fuck around and find out portion of supporting a felon and a known adjudicated rapist. I mean, this man lied to all of you, told you that people were eating cats and dogs, was making up things right and left. He was being fact-checked in the moment. In fact, he said he didn't want to be in the debate if he was being fact-checked because he knew he was going to lie to you guys. But you guys were like, nope, he's my guy. The only people Donald Trump is going to help is the rich, the 1%, and of course the corporations. That is who he's going to help. And I appreciate the fact that you are making this video now to say, hey, what's going on? But maybe, just maybe, you should have fact-checked him, should have looked into the kind of person he was before you gave his support to a known felon and a known adjudicated rapist. So enjoy the ride like the rest of us have to. All my love.
This comes after Fox News featured back-to-back segments in both Canada and Greenland to gauge whether the people are as on board with the imperialist agenda the likes of Jesse Waters are salivating over. And well, the answer seems to be a resounding no.
I get it. You say that Americans don't have a problem with Canadians, and we don't. But it seems like you have a problem with us. Because if I were a citizen of another country and I was a neighbor of the United States, I would consider it a privilege to be taken over by the United States of America. That's what everybody else in the world wants, American citizenship. For some reason, that's repellent to you Canadians. And I find that personally offensive, Premier.
And maybe you'll win a Stanley Cup.
We have health care.
But we have guns.
Yeah, well, we don't need guns.
Can I see your guns?
I don't have guns.
And the hot topic here has been President-elect Trump's comments about buying this Danish territory. Take a listen.
A lot about Trump and also their opinion about Trump.
I hate it. And basically, I don't know what he's aiming at.
Me personally, I want to stick with Danish government.
Well, most of the people that we talked with said that they did not support Trump's comments and found them offensive.
So not only are the people of said areas of unwanted conquest against it, unsurprisingly, but so are many of Trump's supporters, which was always going to be the case. I mean, are people really about to act surprised that the billionaire reality TV star is more obsessed with inflating his insatiable ego than the needs of the American people? I mean, it's build the wall all over again. He runs on hyperbole, but as soon as he gets in office, his focus is on himself and the rich donors that got him there. Hell, the man said this would be his focus quite literally before he got elected. But I guess that was drowned out amidst the lies about an economy that he's set to inherit and immediately take credit for.
Because we remember the pricing from 2019 before COVID. And in some places, especially at the grocery store, prices are so much higher than where they were then. When you look back on it, do you have any regrets about all the fiscal stimulus and extra spending put in place, adding fuel to the fire when it comes to sparking that kind of high inflation?
So I think it's important to remember what the world looked like when we entered the beginning of the Biden administration. We had a pandemic that was raging out of control, and thousands of people were dying on a monthly basis. And the unemployment rate remained extremely high. And many people who had lost their jobs, although they were being supported by unemployment insurance, were in a position where they could lose the roof over their heads. And we saw people in cars lining up at food banks to make sure that they could feed their families. And it was really important to spend the money to alleviate that suffering, to make sure that small businesses didn't go out of business because of the pandemic. People would have lost their livelihoods, their businesses that they had invested in. And we wanted to alleviate all of that suffering. We'd seen in past downturns like during the Great Recession, that people who are unemployed for a very long time become scarred. They become alienated from the workforce, and they can never get their lives, many of them, back on track. So I call that scarring. And we really wanted to avoid that.
ahead of
And I
it.
think the spending was necessary.
I guess there's nothing left to do but let the find out phase commence.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.